Welcome back to The Deep Dive, your weekly dive into the forces shaping our world.
That's right.
Today we turn to the U.S. tech market. Lots of chatter, right? Especially around AI.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, volatility in the AI sector has sparked, well, a lot of debate over whether that much-discussed bubble might finally be straining.
It's the big question on everyone's mind, isn't it?
Exactly. So our mission today, like always, is to cut through that noise, extract the really important bits from our sources, and basically give you a shortcut to being well-informed about this turbulence.
And what's really crucial to understand, based on what we're seeing in our sources, is that this isn't just, random market jitters.
Right.
There seem to be three major kind of intertwined forces driving this turbulence right now. We're going to try and connect the dots for you.
Okay, three forces. Sounds good. But before we dive into those fascinating forces, just a quick recommendation if you're looking for another really deep dive, this time into history. Huang's A History of China. It's available on Amazon, ebook, and paperback. It's just this incredible journey through one of the world's really influential civilizations.
It really is remarkable.
Yeah, and the series is currently making its way through the Genghis Khan section, which is just fascinating stuff. Highly recommended for any history buffs listening.
Essential reading, I'd say.
Totally. Okay, back to AI. Let's jump right into the heart of it. This first major force impacting the AI market, it comes from a pretty critical report by MIT.
Yeah, this one really made waves.
It really did. This is where it gets genuinely eye-opening. MIT's report, it's called The Generative AI Divide, the State of Enterprise AI in 2025. And it reveals a pretty stark reality. It found that, get this, a staggering 95% of enterprise AI projects have so far failed to generate any financial return.
95%. It's almost hard to believe, but the data's there.
Right. Despite billions being poured in, most projects are just stalling. Zero ROI. So what does this failure rate actually tell us? Is it just hype or something deeper?
Well, it's definitely not just hype. I mean, the potential is there, but this report really highlights a massive disconnect.
Okay.
That 95% isn't just a statistic. It's like a flashing red light, For anyone betting big on enterprise AI without a really solid strategy.
So what's going wrong then?
Our sources, they detail the core reasons. A lot of companies, they just lack the basic digital readiness.
Okay.
Their integration strategies are flawed, maybe non-existent. And often, there's just a fundamental misunderstanding of how to actually use AI effectively within their specific workflows.
Right.
We're seeing lots of cases where, like large language models, LLMs, they generate results that are totally irrelevant for specialized tasks.
Like using a hammer when you need a screwdriver.
Exactly. It's like, imagine asking a brilliant poet to write a highly technical legal brief. The tool's powerful, but it's the wrong application or it's not integrated properly. That compounds the problem.
95% is still just, wow. Given the investment, it feels like maybe a lot of companies are just AI washing things, putting a label on it without real substance.
That's certainly part of it for some, yeah.
But if nearly everyone is failing, what about the other 5%? What makes them different? What are they doing right?
That's the key question, isn't it? And our sources give us a pretty clear picture. These successful firms, they tend to be smaller, younger, much more agile.
Okay, nimble.
Exactly. They're not trying to, boil the ocean or sprinkle AI dust everywhere. They target very specific, known pain points in their business.
Makes sense.
They partner smartly with professional tool providers. They don't always try to reinvent the wheel. And crucially, they execute those strategies sharply. They're solving actual problems, not just deploying tech for tech's sake.
Okay, focus and partnership. But where should that focus be? You mentioned ROI.
Right, and there's a really interesting debate here. MIT's report suggests the best ROI, the easiest wins maybe, are in back-office automation.
So cost-cutting efficiency.
Basically, yeah, using AI to streamline internal processes. But our source actually pushes back on that quite strongly.
Oh, interesting. How so?
They insist that the real focus should be on revenue generation. Things like innovative sales and marketing tools powered by AI.
Right, growing the top line, not just shrinking the bottom.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And they issue a pretty stark warning. Companies that get obsessed only with cost-cutting, they risk becoming obsolete. I mean, if you're just saving pennies while your competitors are out there building completely new ways to make money with AI, you're already falling behind, right?
Yeah, that's a powerful point. You can only cut so much before you hit bone. So, okay, building on that, if companies are struggling, should they buy AI tools or try to build their own? Bespoke sounds good, but tricky.
Oh, absolutely tricky. And the data from the report, is quite revealing on this. Another key insight, the widespread failure of these self-built internal AI systems.
Really? How bad is it?
Well, firms that partner with professional vendors, they succeed about 2/3 of the time, give or take.
Okay, pretty good odds.
But the ones trying to build it all internally, they only succeed about 1/3 of the time.
Wow, half the success rate. Why such a big difference?
Couple of big reasons. First, the incredible cost of hiring top-tier AI talent. It's astronomical.
Right, the talent war.
Exactly. And second, the rigid, often really outdated structures within many large established companies. It just makes integrating something genuinely new like AI incredibly difficult.
It's like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole.
Sort of, yeah. Or maybe, look at the reports analogy. Trying to retrofit AI into these legacy structures is like putting engines in carriages.
Ah, I like that. Engines in carriages.
Right. It might look a bit faster, but it's fundamentally still a carriage. The real breakthroughs, the report concludes, they'll come from the car makers, not the carriage makers trying to upgrade.
Okay, but hang on. Sometimes companies have to build their own, right? If they have super unique, valuable data.
That's true. That's the important exception. If your data is your core competitive edge or it's incredibly sensitive, then yes, building internally might be necessary to protect that IP.
So what do they do then?
Well, that's where services like Databricks or Palantir can come in. They provide platforms and tools that can help manage those complex internal builds more effectively. They offer some support structure.
Got it. So the analogy holds you need a new chassis, not just a bigger engine. But thinking about these big established companies, these carriage makers, is it actually realistic to expect them to suddenly become car makers? Or will the disruption mostly come from new players?
That really is the billion-dollar question, isn't it? The report suggests it's incredibly hard for them. The inertia is huge.
Yeah.
So the car makers, they're likely to be a mix. You'll have agile startups born with AI in their DNA, and maybe, just maybe, a few established giants who have the vision, the resources, and frankly, the guts to completely reinvent themselves.
Not just bolt-on features.
Exactly. It requires a fundamental shift in thinking, in culture, in operations. It's a massive undertaking.
Okay, that MIT report paints a challenging but also clarifying picture. Let's shift gears to the second force. This one's more about market dynamics, right? Citron Research and Palantir.
Yeah, a very specific, high-profile event.
Right. Citron Research, known for being, well, vocal short sellers.
Controversial, some might say.
Definitely controversial. They took aim at Palantir. Shares dropped, about 9% after their note came out.
Yep, it had an immediate impact.
And Citron's main arguments were Palantir is overvalued, especially compared to, say, OpenAI, and it's way too reliant on government contracts. Now, we should mention Citron's track record is mixed. They nailed Luckin Coffee.
Which imploded, yeah.
But they also shorted Tesla, which then, what's stratospheric. So they get attention, but they're not always right. How should we read their Palantir critique?
Well, connecting this back to the bigger picture, that comparison Citron made between Palantir and OpenAI, our sources basically call it a false comparison. Almost unprofessional, frankly.
Why? Because they do different things.
Completely different things. They operate in totally separate arenas. OpenAI is foundational AIs, right? They're building the core models, the underlying tech. Think of it like the basic engine or the AI operating system. Palantir, they're in-defense data integration, building highly specialized applications, secure platforms, mainly for government and intelligence. It's more like a sophisticated, secure nervous system for critical operations.
So different markets, different models, not apples to apples at all.
Not even close. Different business models, different clients, different value propositions. Comparing their valuations directly just doesn't make much sense.
Okay, point taken on the comparison.
Yep.
But what about the other criticism? Palantir's reliance on government contracts. Is that a fair concern? Or maybe it's actually a strength?
That's a really good question, and it cuts both ways. Yes, their dependence on government work is absolutely real. It's a huge chunk of their business. Right. But that's also where their massive competitive advantages, their moat, really lies. The barriers to entry in that sector, they're immense.
Right. You can't just knock on the Pentagon's door with a new app.
Exactly. And once you're in, the client switching costs are incredibly high.
Yeah.
Getting a major government agency to rip out a deeply integrated system like Palantir's, it's a massive, costly, bureaucratic nightmare for them.
So they're sticky clients.
Very sticky. And you add to that the fact that the global demand for sophisticated data processing in defense and intelligence is just exploding right now.
Yeah.
Plus, you factor in Peter Thiel's deep political connections and influence. Our sources tend to think Palantir's position is actually quite resilient, despite these kinds of short seller attacks. They've carved out a tough but very valuable niche.
Okay, so high barriers, sticky clients, growing demand, sounds like a strong defense against critics like Citron, even if the government concentration is real. Now let's move to the third factor. This one takes us inside a tech giant, Meta.
Right, Facebook's parent company.
They went on this huge AI hiring spree, right? Spending billions, scooping up top researchers, and then, quite suddenly, an abrupt freeze. What was going on there?
Well, the initial spree was driven by massive ambition. Meta was basically trying to buy its way to the absolute forefront of AI research and development, pouring resources into getting the best minds.
Okay, trying to corner the talent market.
Pretty much. But this aggressive, often incredibly high-paying recruitment drive, it caused some serious internal friction.
Oh, so?
You had longtime Meta employees, the ones who built the company's earlier successes, looking at these newcomers getting paid enormous sums. And naturally, they started questioning their value, the cultural fit.
Right. Who are these people and why are they getting paid twice as much as me?
Exactly. It reportedly intensified cultural clashes, increased internal competition, maybe not always in healthy ways. You can just imagine the tension, right?
Yeah.
Different strategies, different loyalties, different paychecks.
Yeah, seems messy. So what was the freeze about then? Just cutting costs or something else?
It wasn't a total stop to all hiring,
Yeah.
apparently. It was more like a re-centralization of control. Hiring decisions got pulled right up to the very top leadership. So it effectively limited the broader recruitment efforts happening across different teams. It became much more controlled hiring, focused on very specific, high-level needs, maybe.
And what are the risks with that kind of approach, bringing in all these high-level people?
Well, there's this insight our source mentioned. They called it the generals versus troops problem.
Generals versus troops.
Yeah. A lot of these super high-level recruits, they're the generals. They're brilliant strategists, great at vision, setting direction.
Right.
But generals need troops, right? They need the engineers, the product managers, the teams on the ground to actually execute those grand visions.
And the freeze maybe stopped the hiring of the troops?
Or at least made it much harder and potentially alienated some of the existing troops if they felt overlooked or undervalued. Without really careful management, you risk creating these internal factions, these silos built around star recruits, making it super difficult to actually deliver cohesive results.
So Meta might have assembled this incredible brain trust, but if they can't get them working together effectively with the rest of the company,
then translating those brilliant ideas into actual products or breakthroughs becomes a massive challenge. It's a huge management puzzle for them.
okay. But even if Meta's specific bet here struggles internally, does the wider industry still gain something from this? From all this talent being concentrated and, well, shaken up?
Absolutely. And this is where you have to take the longer view. Even if Meta's specific strategy doesn't quite achieve its internal goals in the short run, the broader tech industry often benefits significantly.
How does that work?
Well, concentrating so much top talent in one place, even temporarily, it raises salaries across the board, which attracts more people to the field. It sparks intense intellectual collisions, new ideas get formed, and often it actually incubates future entrepreneurs.
So people meet, work together, maybe get frustrated, and then leave to start their own thing.
Precisely. We've seen this happen before. Our sources point to examples like Baidu in China. They had these ambitious mobile internet and AI initiatives years ago that didn't fully pan out for Baidu itself in the way they hoped.
Right.
But the sheer amount of talent they gathered significantly boosted the entire Chinese tech ecosystem. People left and founded other successful companies. Same with the Shanghai Innovation Institute. It had its own issues, but it brought brilliant minds together who went on to do great things elsewhere.
So even a perceived failure inside a big company can actually seed future innovation across the industry.
Exactly. Meta's internal drama, however it plays out for them, ultimately contributes to this larger, vibrant, and sometimes chaotic intellectual ecosystem for AI.
That's a really fascinating perspective on the ripple effects. Okay, so we've looked at the enterprise adoption struggles via MIT, the market skepticism via Citron Palantir, and the internal giant dynamics via Meta. What does this all mean for the bigger AI picture? Who are the clear winners right now?
Well, amidst all this turbulence, our sources consistently point to NVIDIA as the surest winner.
The hardware folks.
Yep. They're essentially selling the pickaxes in a gold rush. They make the specialized chips, the GPUs, the infrastructure that pretty much everyone needs to do serious AI work.
Right. Doesn't matter who finds the gold, NVIDIA sells them the tools.
Exactly. Their position seems incredibly strong, fundamental to the whole sector right now.
But beyond NVIDIA, what are the bigger challenges facing this AI revolution? You mentioned it's different from, say, the internet boom.
Yeah, that's a key point. Unlike the internet and mobile revolutions, which happened during periods of generally economic expansion and increasing globalization,
Right.
AI is really taking off during an economic slowdown and a period of, deglobalization.
Right.
Countries are becoming more protectionist, supply chains are shifting.
So growth won't come as easily from just adding billions of new users or devices.
Probably not. It means AI growth will likely have to come from deeper value extraction within existing systems, from fundamentally transforming industries rather than just expanding the user base exponentially. That's potentially a harder, slower path.
And what about the business models? Are things like subscriptions and paying per query, these token models, are they enough to fuel that deep transformation?
That's another critical point our sources raise. There's a critique that these current models, while they work for specific things, might be too narrow, too incremental. They might lack that truly revolutionary appeal or economic structure needed to drive widespread societal adoption, the kind of shift that changes everything. For AI to really fulfill its promise, we might need entirely new commercial models that unlock value in ways we haven't even thought of yet.
Okay, so finding the right business model is still a major hurdle. Now, you mentioned the bubble earlier. If this isn't the bubble bursting, what would that actually look like, according to your sources?
The true bubble burst, the kind of systemic collapse like the dot-com crash. Our source suggests that probably won't happen until the current tech titans face genuine existential threats.
So Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Meta, maybe Oracle?
Exactly. When those giants start looking genuinely vulnerable, maybe disrupted by entirely new AI-native companies, that's when you know a fundamental shift, a real God's twilight is happening.
Okay, so until then, this volatility is more like growing pains.
Growing pains, strategic adjustments, maybe mini bubbles in specific applications, but not the whole thing imploding. Not yet, anyway. And there's another layer, too. Politics.
How so?
There's speculation, especially with governments pouring subsidies into things like chip manufacturing, the Intel getting CHIPS Act money,
Right.
that these subsidies could eventually morph into equity stakes. The government is essentially becoming a part owner. It edges towards a kind of state capitalism, especially for technologies deemed strategically critical.
Wow, so the government not just funding, but potentially owning pieces of key AI-related companies or foreign investors like TSMC building here.
Potentially, yeah. Or influencing strategy more directly. Think about how different political figures might view that someone like Trump might have a very different approach to state involvement than others. It adds another layer of uncertainty and potential structural change.
That's a really provocative idea, blurring the lines between state and private enterprise in tech. So, given all the operational hurdles, the market skepticism, the internal struggles, the macro challenges, the political shifts, what's the bottom line? What does AI need to truly thrive?
It comes back to that core idea. For AI to really deliver on its revolutionary promise, companies can't just keep bolting engines onto old frameworks.
They need to become car makers, not just better carriage makers.
Precisely. They need to design entirely new ways of creating value, new ways of distributing it. It's about fundamental business model innovation, not just technological tweaking. The outlook, it's definitely not going to be a smooth, straight line upwards.
No, clearly not.
Expect setbacks. Expect volatility. Expect some companies, maybe even big ones, to stumble or fall. But the long-term potential for transformation, if companies can figure out how to genuinely build those cars, it remains absolutely extraordinary.
It really is a fascinating picture. Complex, dynamic. You've got the operational failures MIT highlighted, the market critiques from folks like Citron, the internal struggles inside giants like Meta. It all feeds into this incredibly turbulent but also profoundly transformative period for AI. We started by asking if the bubble is straining. And it feels like the answer is, well, it's complicated. It's not one single bubble about to pop, maybe. It's more like this complex storm of inefficiencies, strategic bets, power plays, all happening against this backdrop of undeniable game-changing potential.
That sums it up well. It's less about if AI changes the world and more about how, and frankly, who manages to navigate this turbulence successfully to actually build that future.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you, the listener, doesn't it?
It does. This raises a really important question to mull over. the truly profound shift when it comes. It won't just be about smarter algorithms or faster chips. It'll be about entirely new structures for creating value, for distributing wealth.
Right.
When AI starts changing the fundamental fabric of our economy and society, not just optimizing the existing threads, that's when we'll know its true revolutionary promise is starting to be realized. It's about the architecture around the tech, not just the tech itself.
A powerful thought to end on. And once again, if you're looking for that deep dive into the historical forces shaping our world, do check out Hui Wang's A History of China. It's on Amazon, ebook, and paperback.
Highly recommended.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time.